The Bureau of Labor Statistics will publish its first jobs report since President Trump fired the agency's leader. Tomorrow, we have a jobs report that is going to drastically affect the market, and it comes out before the market even opens. So Friday is going to tell us a lot. Now, today we also got some news as well. Job openings decreasing of 176,000 positions, or 2.4%, indicating a cooler labor market, which some people or investors lean as bullish for the market because it gives the Fed more room to cut. However, the difference between the news we got today and the news we get tomorrow can be drastically different, and I'm going to explain all the scenarios that you have to watch out for and how it will affect the market. Also, we could have a scenario tomorrow that comes out that can affect GameStop and the carry trade unwind. So watch until the end of the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to turn post notifications on. So tomorrow on Friday, the August US jobs report come out, and here is what we are expecting. The expectation is around 75K jobs being reported, and this will likely leave stocks somewhat sideways. Now, if we get a report of 100,000 jobs added, stocks will likely flush down, or a report of about 50K added, stocks will likely pump. However, this is where the dynamic gets a little bit more interesting. If the print somehow comes way in below expectations, say under 40K or even around 40K or negative at all, weak jobs report, Fed cuts, dollar dumps, JPY strengthens, carry trades unwind. Now, the carry trade unwind equals swap deleveraging, dealers unwind meme baskets, force buying in GameStop, and broader market likely flushes down on recession panic. Then we might see gold as well as Bitcoin and other safe haven assets rise. In my opinion, this is best case scenario because the SPY is kind of due for some sort of correction. And all of this, Fed's going to ease the monetary policy. While it looks bullish on the front end, reverse repos are damn near draining at the fastest rate we have seen, down to 17 billion from 23 billion, which is still extremely low, which means less liquidity, which overall, right now, what we are seeing coming into tomorrow, I believe the best case scenario would be the SPY to fall off a cliff, yet put pressure on those bond yields and cause a lot of pressure on those swaps for institutions, big money to deleverage in specific areas, causing a short squeeze and a move up on assets like Bitcoin and GameStop. This is best case scenario. If this scenario happens, then we also have GameStop earnings Tuesday. So we could be on the verge of something nuts. Now, again, that's a long shot that we get it something that low. Either way, we have two scenarios where we somewhat pump, right? If people are shorting the market or hedging, especially if they base it off of today's news, which we are selling off on the markets right now, or at least on Bitcoin, we are selling off. Markets continue to pump higher, right? If they are hedging and we do get that pump, then shorts will end up exiting as well. Now, Bitcoin dumped 109,500 currently, and here are some things that we could see coming into the data that we get reported tomorrow. Very, very bearish scenario is we see a flash crash down to 103,500. Write that on your chart. I don't think that the move is invalidated if we get to 103,000. I believe we will have a sharp V-shaped recovery following that. Now, the second scenario is tonight we begin building momentum into that jobs report in the morning in pre-market, and we end up waking up tomorrow to around 114, 115K Bitcoin. Now, the SPY on the 1 hour, yesterday we talked about it climbing, reclaiming this channel, and about to fill this gap at 645. And what had happened today, this morning? Well, we climbed higher and we actually filled that. Now we are retesting this blue rising wedge up here that we have drawn out in the blue trend lines that you can see. Once we reclaimed it back here, we had a heavy move up. Best case scenario, we come up and we base off of this and we climb higher, or we are leading for a perfect rejection coming into tomorrow morning for the SPY to fall off a cliff, essentially. However, you look at the weekly time frame and all of the bears go quiet because we are seeing a huge green candle with a wick on the lower end. And if the SPY closes Friday pumping without an upper wick, then markets are very, very bullish, at least for the next 2 weeks. Okay, that leads us into the Fed meeting. Watch DXY very closely. Now, speaking of these government bonds, the Bank of Japan is making Japanese government bonds available for purchase on a spot basis, meaning investors can buy them for immediate delivery and use, which is a departure from its usual auction system. This move is intended to provide the government with more flexible and immediate access to funding, particularly in response to rising debt servicing costs and fiscal pressures. Now, this could ripple through bond prices, interest rates, and currency values. Long story short, the Bank of Japan is doing something that shows that they are in a tight spot. The thing that they are doing will likely cause their yields to spike, will likely cause a discrepancy between the DXY and the JPY. Now, GameStop is expected to have a 10.37% implied move on their earnings coming up, which is right around the corner. And we recently got this little blip in the chart, and coincidentally, we rejected off of this trend line that we have drawn out. This is a different GameStop chart that I have, but you have all seen it. Unless you are new to the channel, welcome back to the channel. Under this level of 2170, the entire float could be bought back. They would likely do a share buyback. As Ryan Cohen said, if they see a unique investment, they will take it. Okay, so in this blue zone, we have earnings reported September 9th, which I believe is on Tuesday. Let me just double check. Yeah, Tuesday, September 9th. We are right there. The first rejection point that we have to watch for on GameStop now is $25.32. Following that, $27.30, and then around $31.50 to $32, before ultimately moving between 36 and 52, which is the target. Now, if we only got the implied move from where we are trading at today of 10%, that would only bring GameStop up to about $24.90. So if we were to only get a 10% move, I believe tomorrow we see a little bit of a rise to where that 10% move brings us up to the next trend line, which would be around 25.20, 25.30, which I do believe we will get a move higher than that, especially if those bond yields are rising, putting pressure on swaps. I believe we are also going to see a move because of the gamma ramp that we are seeing on GameStop, which we talked about yesterday. Now, MicroStrategy posted this picture with GameStop on the third of the list, annualized returns of top U.S. public companies since August 10th of 2020, with Strategy at the top 93%, and then you come down to GameStop at 83%. Beautiful. And then NVIDIA all the way back here. Speaking of NVIDIA, we'll touch on that towards the end of the video very briefly because I want to point something out. Now, Michael Saylor's strategy meets all criteria to be listed in the S&P 500 according to Bloomberg. This is very good for MicroStrategy. We've been talking about how on the macro, on the weekly time frame, it is testing the 200 right now. And if Bitcoin gets that last move to 131K, MicroStrategy will likely get another move higher and a boost higher. Plus, if people end up buying into MicroStrategy, aka the S&P 500, getting those shares of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy can then use those shares to purchase more Bitcoin, which has been basically their sole strategy in their Bitcoin treasury reserve, right? In their Bitcoin reserve asset. Now, this is going to bring us into AMC. AMC has been flushing lower, $2.70. Ultimately, it's very cheap. I like AMC at these levels. Anything under $3 is insanely cheap for AMC, and I believe we are right on the verge of this green cycle where we flush down coming into that. And even if we were a little bit early and we were at the edge of the blue cycle, which I don't believe to be the case, we would still see a pop into a bigger move. And ultimately, coming into GameStop's earnings, I believe it's going to be very, very good, and AMC is going to have high sympathy towards that. Plus, we have the relief of pressure, possibly, again, for all the bears, I say possibly, coming into the September 15th Fed meeting. Open began to climb again, was up about 15% today, all the way up 577. It did break above 515 and 525 and now is holding above it today. Watch this one closely. It's up 6%, but be very careful and don't get trapped in the play because OpenAI, wow, I'm cooked. OpenAI insiders to now sell shares worth of up to 10.3 billion, up from 8 billion earlier to outside investors. Guys, I read that wrong when I was researching. It's not Open Door, but separately, right? There you go. Yeah, just be careful with Open Door. It could continue to rise. But again, it's always safe to run those stop losses or trailing take profits. Just keep rising them in the green. Again, open door could have a lot more room to go. Ethereum, 4,300, down 3.5%. There are some scary signals indicating that we may be seeing a possible double top right here, and it being the top of the cycle for Ethereum. However, I don't believe so. I still will stick to 5,800, and we will see where it goes from here. With all of the fear, all of the noise, we still see Ethereum, Bitcoin, and altcoins like XRP as well just consolidating. Again, that should give you a relief of pressure. Now, NVIDIA is on the daily trading below the 200 moving average, which is not something that we see often. In fact, the last time we ended up seeing this was late December of 2024, which ultimately led into the April crash. Now, coincidentally, if you look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, it's at about 58%. That at the same exact time was during the December, that was actually leading into the mid-November into December's crash and into that April move down as well. But what we saw during that time frame was one last push up on Bitcoin, which is ultimately what we've been calling for and expecting. So we are seeing some things line up, and the same thing goes for Ethereum. If you look at the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart and the Bitcoin dominance chart, what we would see is sort of the same setup where we have one last push up on Ethereum and get a double top before selling off even further. Now, is this pattern already played out? Did we see the last top on Bitcoin and the top on Ethereum? It's up for you guys to decide in the comments down below. I did want to check one thing really quick that I'm just thinking about right now, and it is the cycle period. 660-day cycle top leads up to September 15th, which we saw on Ethereum several times, indicating a top for the cycle. Okay, that gives us room to September 15th without failing a cycle at all. So again, we still have room for that one last push higher. Guys, if you're not in the Discord server, make sure to press the top link in the description of the video. Join up. Talk stocks with the best people, best vibes in there. There are no bad questions, guys. Come join the family. We also have tons of AI alerts in there. People are killing it in there. If you want my custom indicator, second link in the description for pattern detection and forecasting. Go check out those links, guys. I appreciate it so much. Make sure to subscribe to the channel on your way out and have post notifications on. Hopefully I covered everything you wanted me to cover in today's video. Ultimately, I am excited for GameStop's earnings coming up, as well as the report we get tomorrow, and I will position accordingly coming into next week. That is it. I love you all. God bless. Lottery Stocks out.